Welcome to CEO Insights. I'm Marilyn de Guzman with Investing News Network. I'm speaking with Allan Frame, President and CEO of Beyond Lithium, currently the largest greenfield lithium exploration company in Ontario. Hello, Allan.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good. It's good to have you.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for the invite. I'm very, very happy to be here.
Yeah, I know you have lots to talk about some exciting new developments at your exploration properties. But before we get into that, I'd like to ask you about your professional background. Prior to joining Beyond Lithium, you worked in the investment industry for 47 years until you retired last year. What motivated you to venture into the resource industry and more specifically to Beyond Lithium?
Thanks for the question. Yes, I did spend 47 years in the investment industry in Canada, worked for various firms. So I was located in Calgary for my working career. I worked for Macquarie, Richardson's, a whole bunch of different companies in between. And I ended my career with Haywood Securities in Calgary. And I've spent of my 47 years, probably the last 35 or maybe even 40 years, doing junior resource financings, both in oil and gas and mining. So, I've certainly learned the ins and outs of how to raise capital for these companies and sort of hone my skills on trying to, use the best structures possible to give companies more of an advantage. For example, a couple of years ago, I did an IPO for a company called Beyond Minerals, which is now Beyond Lithium. So I had a large part in the structure of it. It was a real tight little company. It was created as a listed trading qualified, basically shell company, although they had some properties in Quebec that they have done some exploration on. But the company was really looking for some bigger event to get involved in. Two of the founders, Victor Cantore from Amex Minerals, plus others, and Alain Lambert were people that I met when we did the issue. In fact, my relationship with Alain goes back to 1991 when I was working with different firms. I did lots of different IPOs and took some of Alain's companies public. So we had the relationship there. So I retired about 14 months ago. Shortly thereafter, Alain talked to me about Beyond Minerals. Well, actually, it was this year, in March of this year, and said that they were going to get involved in the lithium business. Yes, a specific commodity. And was I interested in helping and joining as the CEO and the president? Well, I had worked on the structuring of the company. Most of my friends and former clients were shareholders in the company, including myself. So it was pretty easy for me to accept it. So at that point in time, we jointly made the decision to either sort of go big or go home, So that's when that huge property acquisition occurred, which set us apart from the general populace there in the lithium business by virtue of size. So that's a little bit about my background, and that's how I came to be involved with Beyond Lithium. Firstly, I like the founders. I've known them for a while, really like the structure, and I did have, some part of creating it. And then last but not least, when that huge property package was available, it seemed like a pretty obvious choice for a company that, I would have some fun with and help to build shareholder value. So I happily accepted the opportunity.
Right. So let's talk about that then. So Beyond Lithium has now the largest portfolio of lithium exploration properties in Ontario, with more than 150,000 hectares across 64 properties. And you've made some recent announcements about the progress of exploration work there. Could you provide an overview of the work that's been done and talk a bit more about the exploration team that's there?
Yes. So we actually made some news today, which is an update on exploration. So what we decided to do and how it all turned out was, so we had the properties, we had the structure, we had to go about raising capital for exploration on our property. So we raised about $1 million foreign flow through, which went over very well with friends and former clients of mine and others. So we were loaded with the cash. So the next thing we did was we hired an exploration crew led by Lauren Sang, who has over a decade of experience with Ascot Resources alone, right from early stage exploration up to mine building and ready to commission first pour in the first quarter of 2024. So he was a great catch and a friend of mine that I've known for well over a decade. We also got Graham Evans to work with us on a consulting basis So Graham has over 40 years experience, and he's also spent 11 years in Ontario. So we have him as a consultant, and Paul Baxter. So those three people alone have over 80, almost 90 years experience in the geological field. So we're really lucky there. So once we had them together, along with our awesome prospecting team, we have two prospectors we picked up the properties from that are terrific guys, really hardworking, very smart, well educated. So we've got everything going our way. We have 12 guys working in the field, and the early results from their work and that whole package that I'm describing just came out today. So we've covered about 60% of our 150,000 acres. And of those, we have selected 10 properties out of the 39 we've looked at. Those 10 properties we'll put into phase two for more intense work and exploration, such as trenching, geochem work, more in-depth mapping. So we're really pleased with that. Some of the other properties that we haven't had a chance to visit yet are mainly restricted because of forest fires and road bans. And as an offset to that, it's difficult to get helicopter support for us to work in the remote areas because they're assisting with the forest fires. So we will get back to those when we can, but we've made really, really good progress. We're seeing some great things in the field. We've got a LIBS gun that we're using, which is giving us some preliminary indications of, all the important metals and materials that we're looking for. Hence our 10 properties, which will be in phase two. Just to describe that a little more clearly, phase one is the overall view, boots on the ground for all the properties, which we will accomplish, when we're ready to go into the unattainable access areas. So that's phase one, which we're finishing up now. Phase two will be more in depth for select properties. Phase three, which we hope to do before the end of the year, will be a series of short holes in some of the properties that we're going to further explore and more deeply explore in phase two. So the idea here is to create basically a three-tier system of properties. Tier one, that are really obvious no-brainers to continue exploring. Tier two will be good properties that maybe are a little more difficult to access because we reasonably can't drill all 150,000 hectares, which will lead us to do some future business as well. And then tier three will be ones that, perhaps aren't all that interesting, but we haven't come to that conclusion yet. That's what we're working on. So this announcement today basically is an update for shareholders to show them that we are progressing really well in the field and that we're finding things that we're very, very happy with at this stage.
As your name implies, Beyond Lithium, are you looking at other, I guess, critical metals or other metals in that property that that you have right now?
Well, that's an interesting question because the mission is to find lithium because it looks like it's going to be in strong demand for at least the next decade with everybody going green throughout the world. So it's a really good commodity. But when you're searching for lithium, who knows what you may find? Remember, up until the last couple of years, all those properties were explored for base metals and precious metals. But now there are also rare earths involved too. So we have our eyes open for everything. Anything of commercial value is of interest to us, but our main theme is to look for lithium. But we're very open-minded when it comes to commercial product. We'll take anything commercial and economic that we can find.
So what's the next steps and what can investors expect in the coming months from your company?
I think the next main thing that investors would be and should be interested in will be results from the lab. So we have, while we're exploring, on the first pass, we're taking rock samples. We're not doing trenching or drilling, but we're taking samples. We have over 700 samples at the lab, and we have over 160 samples that we've subjected to the LIBS survey. So we're creating data. Once we start getting more critical mass back, in other words, more assays from the lab, we look forward to announcing the results from the lab, telling people exactly what minerals we're seeing in our grab samples. And that will give more information and be more telling for the properties that will be in phase two. So the next big event from a shareholder's perspective should be actual results from the lab. And secondly, and just as importantly, the beginning of the phase two, more in-depth exploration on the more interesting of the property. So we'll have a lot of news flow. And the lab has been a little slow getting results back to us, but they're starting to come in now. As soon as we have enough critical mass there, we'll start announcing them in batches. And I think we'd probably be able to make news, including assays, every couple of weeks, practically right through till the end of the year, because we're not finished taking samples yet either. That's still an ongoing program as well. So those, I think, are the main things that shareholders can look forward to.
So when you're speaking to investors who are looking at lithium at the moment, obviously there's, about 100 listed lithium exploration companies in Canada right now. What do you say to them as what sets Beyond Lithium apart from your peers?
Oh, a great question. The one thing, and there are several answers, the share structure is good. So when we look at your average Greenfields lithium explorer, what we see on a comp list, we're seeing the average explorer in Ontario trades at, this is a comp thing I'm going to give you here, but they trade at about $400 a hectare. So we're trading for about $90, $85, $90 a hectare. So relative to our peers, we're trading at 20 or 25% of the normal value, the pure value. So that's one thing. Second thing is the share structure. With 28 million shares out and over 50% held by management and insiders, upon success in the field, I think this company could exhibit a lot of market torque. In other words, you could add value quickly if your exploration programs are successful. So there's those two things. The third thing is that, I've got almost 50 years of raising capital experience. And Victor Cantore has many years of raising capital experience, as does Alain Lambert. So we have a team that knows how to get the job done. And then equally, as these things are all equally important, but our exploration team led by Lawrence, along with Graham and Paul and Jason in the field for prospectors, in my view, are second to none. Yeah, I've worked with the three geologists for well over a decade on very successful projects. They're really well known, knowledgeable people. So we've got a great team. We've got lots of properties which are turning out really good. We've got a great share structure. We've got the ability to raise capital, and we're like 25 cents on the dollar relative to our peers who have no more or less than we do at this stage of the game, except that they've been at it longer. And we have 150,000 hectares, but we haven't explored them all. So that's part of the reason, there's a bit of a lag there. But we will fill that gap. We will explore. We will create news. We'll have boots in the ground for everything. And there's no reason, in my view, why we shouldn't trade at least the same type of value as our peers. And then if we're successful in the field, hopefully better than our peers. And that's the goal. And those are the reasons why I think we're more attractive than most.
Well, certainly exciting times ahead for the company, and we look forward to having you back here to learn more about, the results of further exploration you're doing in your properties.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Join us again next time for another engaging conversation on CEO Insights. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates and interviews. See you next time.